fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion, Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. Hi-yo, Silver! Hi!
The Lone Ranger and Tonto had turned their horses into Dry Bone Flats, a stretch of desert which lay east of the Black Mountains in Arizona territory. They were headed for the Apache Indian reservations, where rumor had it that Chief Cochise was again making war medicine. Scanning the desolate landscape, the masked man observed,
Tonto, it'll be like Cochise to go on the warpath now.
Oh, why you say that?
Most of the soldiers who were on guard at the reservations have been sent south to the border to protect the towns there against a gang of outlaws known as the Zappalates or vultures.
Better than watch Apaches.
The question whether the Indians are a greater menace or the bandits. Some of the Zappalates are Americans, some Mexicans. All are as murderous as any pirates who ever sailed the Spanish Main.
How many feller and gang?
No one knows definitely, but more than 30 are said to have taken part in a recent raid on a border settlement. After looting the place and killing many of the inhabitants, they scattered.
Where them go?
It's assumed they fled into Old Mexico.
Maybe them stay there.
The Zappalates have been too successful in their crimes to remain in hiding. It's possible they may have gotten together for a new outrage.
It'd be plenty bad if Apaches and outlaws both make raids.
Pull up, Tonto. Those over.
What you see?
Look at the hoof prints just ahead of us.
Yeah, 2 riders go by here a couple days ago. Head for Black Mountain foothills.
We cut into several other trails like that this morning. All lead in the same general direction.
Apaches not leave trails. Those horses shod.
So I've noticed. I thought the other trails had been left by prospectors. But now I wonder why so many horsemen have ventured out here.
Maybe gold rush going on.
If there is, it'll be next to impossible to forestall an Apache outbreak. Nothing angers Indians as much as a gold rush in the country they claim.
What we do?
The men who are riding into the foothills should be warned of their danger. We'll follow the 2 who left these tracks. Come on, Silver.
Get 'em up, Scout.
Several hours later, the Lone Ranger and Tonto reached a point where the hoof prints mingled with those of many other horses, headed in the same direction. A little farther on, all of the tracks vanished into a small basin, known as the Red Kettle, from the color of the surrounding rocks. Seeing in the circumstances an indication of a prearranged and secret meeting in the basin, the masked man and Indian became suspicious. They dismounted, crawled to the edge of the rim rock, and peered down. After a brief silence, Tonto spoke.
Kimasabi.
Yes?
Big camp down there. Big gang round. But maybe some fellers sleep. Better we count horses.
I've already counted them. There are 32.
Some fellers Americans, some Mexicans. None got prospecting tools, but all got 2, 3 guns.
They may be the Zappalatis.
Why them hide here?
I doubt that they're hiding from pursuit. After doubling back into the United States from old Mexico, they probably met here for the purpose of making another raid.
What them raid? All town's long way off. No wagon trains pass here.
I'm not so sure about the wagon trains. A cutoff trail crosses Dry Bone Flats.
Well, what we do about fellers down there?
They're the border outlaws. It'd be suicidal for us to ride in on them. The odds are more than 15 to 1 against us.
Well, better we wait for night. Then creep down, listen to what them say.
We waited too long as it is. Look across the kettle.
Ah, them guards. Them ride round this way in Rimrock.
And they see us back to the horses.
Now they aim rifles. Better we shoot back.
No, they're beyond revolver range. Got mounted steady, Silver. Easy.
Easy, feller.
Come on, Silver!
Riding hard across the flats for the better part of an hour, the Lone Ranger and Tonto made sure that they had outrun pursuit. Then drew rein.
Hold it, easy, big fella. Tonto, we had a narrow escape.
Now he's sure them outlaws.
There can be no doubt of that now. But it's a question whether we should center our attention on them or the Apaches.
Me think outlaws more dangerous.
So do I. Heavily armed and savage as they are, the bandits have the capacity to kill more innocent people than several hundred Indians.
Well, better we tell soldiers at Apache agency about gangs.
No, the few who haven't been sent to the border to hunt the outlaws are needed at their post right now.
Well, what we do?
We ride to the cutoff trail and watch for wagon trains.
Soon be dark. Wagons not move at night.
That's true. But we'll be in a position to head off any we see tomorrow. Come on, Phil.
Come on, stop.
That night, a combined train of freight and emigrant wagons stood in a circle at a point where the cutoff trail entered Dry Bone Flats. As campfires were being kindled, Cap Keller, the hired guide and captain of the train, rode away from the corral of heavy vehicles. Keller had said that he intended to scout around for signs of Indians, but he headed his horse straight into a cottonwood grove. From the shadows, a low voice hailed him.
Senor el Capitan.
Oh. That you, Pedro?
Si, senor. It's good to meet you here. For many nights I have waited.
I couldn't tell you the exact day that the wagons had reached Dry Bone Flats. Tell me, the gang ready for the job?
Yes, ready. We camp now in Red Kettle. But this day a caballero who wear a mask and a big Indio spied on us.
Masked man, an Injun? Who were they?
Who knows? They escaped from us.
They must be owl hoots themselves. Well, it isn't likely they'll tell what they saw. But even if they do, it'll be too late for anyone to stop us.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, look, are you sure that you and the other fellas savvy what you're to do?
Oh, see. We are to roll the boulders into the far end of Broken Wheel Pass. Then attack the wagons from the sides and the rear. Hey, what is in them?
Some are chock full of trade goods that'll be worth thousands of dollars in the mining camps. The others are carrying immigrant families.
What is it you want done with them?
I'm leaving that to you.
Well, dead ones tell no tales.
Right. Let the Apaches take the blame. But be careful that you don't shoot me or a girl in a red bonnet.
A senorita.
When the attack starts, I'll carry her off and make her think I saved her.
Yeah, it's a good trick. You are one smart hombre.
Now, one thing more, Pedro. I'll arrange to have my second in command lead the train into the pass. Kill him first of all.
I myself will kill him. When will the wagons be there?
Day after tomorrow.
Hey, somebody come.
That may be Clay Rogers, my second in command, and the girl, Ellen Sayre.
What shall I do?
Hide, then slip back to the gang as soon as you can.
See, I go. Adios.
Oh, there. Easy, boy. We heard your voice, Cap. Who was here with you?
Nobody, Clay. Just praying out loud for the folks in the wagon train. I do it every night.
Captain, I believe you, even if Clay doesn't. I think it's wonderful how you've managed to lead us so far without having a bit of trouble.
Ellen, there's nothing wonderful about it. Cap happens to know the country and is being well paid for seeing that we reach California alive.
You're jealous, Clay. Just think of it. We haven't seen a single hostile Indian.
You don't see hostile Indians until they attack.
And where did you learn about them? From James Fenimore Cooper's novels?
Of course he did. That's why the other pilgrims elected him to help me get the wagons through.
Come on, Ellen, let's go back to the wagons.
I'll ride with the captain.
Yeah, get up there. Come on, get up.
Get up.
At sunrise the next morning, the wagon train rumbled into Dry Bone Flats. On the western skyline, toward which the long column of ox-drawn and canvas-covered Conestogas was headed, loomed the forbidding Black Mountains. Behind it, a vast cloud of desert dust hung in the still air. Riding abreast, Cap Keller, Clay Rogers, and Ellen Sayre led the train by half a mile. From time to time, the girl turned her red-bonneted head and looked admiringly at Keller, who made a romantic figure with his close-cropped mustache, fringed buckskin jacket, and hand-tooled boots. Then she asked,
Captain, how far is it to the mountains?
Maybe Clay can tell you from his book learning.
I know that beyond them lies California, the end of your job.
Oh, look, ahead. 2 riders.
Masked man and an Indian.
They're headed this way.
Pull up.
Who?
There,
Who they?
Keller, go, steady.
Ellen, go back to the wagons.
No, I'm safer here with Captain Keller.
Let's halt them, Cap.
Roger, I'm running the outfit. I want them to come in close so they can find out who that masked hombre is and what he wants.
We're friends. Don't fire.
They're making the peace sign. I've read of it.
Keep your hands where they are.
Very well. Who's the captain of the wagon train?
I am, Cap Keller. Now, you explain yourself. Why are you wearing that mask?
That has nothing to do with my presence here. Do you know that you're far off the main route to California?
Yes, but we'll soon be back on it.
Well, why did you lead the wagons into this cutoff?
It's none of your business.
Well, it's the business of the people in the train to know. What are you hiding, Cap?
Not a confounded thing. I took you fellers on this cut-off trail because it saves a lot of miles.
Then you'd better turn back and save a lot of lives.
What do you mean, mister?
The wagon train's in serious danger from 2 quarters.
2 quarters? How's that?
A large band of outlaws is now camped in Red Kettle. It isn't likely that the bandits would be there unless they plan to attack a wagon train.
I don't believe it. And I'll loot yourself. You're trying to work some kind of trick on us.
Why, of course he is.
What's the other danger, mister?
The Apaches may attack you before you can be ambushed by the outlaws.
Oh, you're loco. The Indians have been right peaceable of late.
Apaches never are at peace, as you must know if you're an experienced wagon master. They may be off their reservations at this moment. So take my advice and turn back.
Cap, we'd better do as the masked man says.
Not on your tintype. Tonight we'll camp at Sweetwater Springs. Tomorrow we'll go on through Broken Wheel Pass.
Captain Keller, a party of emigrants was massacred at those springs when the Apaches took the warpath last year. Broken Wheel Pass is an equally dangerous place.
Cap, listen to the masked man. Don't take us into a trap.
Clay, you're a coward.
I am, if it's cowardly to think of you and the other women and the children.
You can go back if you want to, Rogers. Nobody's keeping you here.
I'm staying. But I'll put the question to a vote of all the men in the train at the first stop. Isn't that the rule in all emigrant companies?
It is, Mr. Rogers.
Look here, feller. I'm tired of hearing your tall stories. Now take your engine partner and clear out.
Is that your final word?
Right.
Don't worry, mister. We'll be turning back as soon as the other men hear what you told us.
I hope so. Let's go, Tonto. Come on, Silver.
Get him up, Scout.
As the masked man and Indian turned their horses and headed back up the trail, Cap Keller suddenly lifted the Winchester 73, which had been resting on the pommel of his saddle. The brass-bound barrel swung into line with the Lone Ranger's back. The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger adventure. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. Now to continue. The wagon master had failed to consider the possibility that the morning sun might reveal his intention. As the rifle came to his shoulder, the shadow which it cast well out in front of him caught the Lone Ranger's eye. Instantly, the masked man drew a gun and pulled Silver into a half-turn, which the rearing stallion made on his hind legs. The sudden maneuver threw Keller off his aim just as he fired. The bullet missed the Lone Ranger by inches. Then the masked man's Colt spouted smoke and lead. Keller's Winchester flew from his hands, its wooded forearm shattered. As it fell, the masked man and Indian charged.
Get your hands up, Keller.
Yeah, they're up. Don't kill me.
Hold, easy. Big fella. Why did you try to murder me?
Isn't murder to shoot a masked owl hood or an Injun?
We were criminals, we'd kill you. But we're honest men who want to protect the wagon train.
Mister, I believe you. Cap Keller's a treacherous scoundrel. Ellen, you saw what he did.
I saw it all, Clay. I'm sorry I said what I did to you. It's Captain Keller who's a coward.
Ellen,
Don't speak to me. I'm going back to the wagons. Get up. Get up.
Keller, you should be dismissed from command of the train, but that's up to the people who engaged you.
They'll hear all about him.
Mister, I'll admit I was mistaken about you and the Redskin. I'm mighty sorry.
I doubt it. Otto, pick up his Winchester.
Let me get it. What me do with it?
Bring it along and drop it at the next turn in the trail.
Me savvy.
Come on, through there.
Must come.
Several hours later, the Lone Ranger and Tonto, who had halted their horses after making a vain search for signs of Indians, watched a plume of dust move westward along the cutoff and knew that their warning had been futile. There was no hope in Tonto's voice as he said,
Kimasabi, maybe Apaches not know about wagons.
I'd like to believe that. The dust they've raised is visible for many miles. Even though we haven't seen them, Indian scouts probably are following the train.
How we save it now?
It seems to be an impossibility at the moment, but we may have a few hours left in which to find a way. Meanwhile, we'll continue to look for Apaches. Come on, Silver.
Must count.
As another night closed in on Drybone Flats and the moon came up broad and bright, the Lone Ranger and Tonto turned their horses toward Sweetwater Springs, where Keller had said that the emigrants and freighters would camp. A few miles from the springs, they sighted a curious rock. Some 20 feet high, it had the appearance of a huge barrel, for erosion had left hoops of harder stratum protruding from its rounded surface. Tonto pointed to it.
Kimasabi, they're good place to look over flats.
Yes, the rock has a flat top. The outcroppings on the sides make a natural ladder.
Kimasabi, look. Indian ponies stand before a rock.
Pull up, Silver.
As the masked man and his companion reined up and drew their guns, a movement on top of the rock caught their eyes. Then a naked arm and rifle barrel appeared, glistening in the moonlight.
Apache, up there.
He's going to fire.
Better we shoot first. You hit him. Him drop rifle to ground.
I aimed for his arm.
If it broken, him not be able to get down. Feller not need both hands for climb like that.
We can't leave him up there to die. We'll go up after him. Easy steady, big fella. Bring your lariat. Come on, Tonto.
Me get rope.
Tell him that we want to help him.
Kimo, Sibani.
He doesn't answer.
It do no good to talk to Apache.
Even if he only has the use of one arm, he may still be dangerous. We'll climb up on opposite sides.
Me savvy.
All right, up we go.
Several minutes later, the Lone Ranger reached the top of the rock and flung himself over the edge. The Apache was on his knees. His left arm dangled uselessly at his side, but he had drawn a knife with his right hand. Defying the masked man's guns, he lurched to his feet with a yell.
Stand back or I'll shoot.
Not for an instant did the wounded warrior hesitate. Closing with the Lone Ranger, he aimed a murderous thrust. The masked man parried the blade with the barrel of a gun. As steel rang on steel and the duel continued with the masked man still withholding his fire, Tonto climbed over the edge of the rock behind the savage Apache and grasped his good arm.
Let go, knife, quick. Let go. Muscle.
Hold on to him, Tonto. I'll break his grip on the knife.
Him jerk loose. Watch out.
Stepping backward, the Apache flung the knife at the Lone Ranger. The blade lanced into one of the masked man's holsters and stuck there. Then as Tonto tried to grasp him, the Apache plunged from the rock.
Look, him land on head. Hit stone.
The position of his head indicates a broken neck.
Him look dead.
I didn't want that to happen. He was a brave man. Let's climb down.
Now, wait, Kimasabi.
Yes?
Better we look here first.
An arrow lying on the center of the rock. The Apache wasn't armed with a bow.
That signal arrow. It got rag and bunch of hair tied to shaft.
Well, why did the warrior leave it here?
But him scout for war party that come along behind. Him put arrow here so it tell war party where to go and what them find.
What's the meaning of the rag and hair?
Rag mean plenty loot. Hair tell number of white people to be killed. And it looked like bunch got more'n 100 hairs in it.
Then the scout must have seen the wagon train.
Him did. Arrow points straight to Sweetwater Springs. That's where the him want war party to attack.
I see.
Better we take her away.
No, Tonto. We'll leave it here and then dispose of the dead brave and his pony.
Me not savvy.
This is my plan. Listen.
A short time later, the Lone Ranger and Tonto were ready to ride again. They had buried the Indian and stampeded his pony, leaving the arrow to be found by Chief Cochise and his braves. As the masked man swung into the saddle, Tonto put an ear to the ground. After listening for a moment, he bounded to his feet.
Kimasabi, me hear plenty horses coming.
And the war party is getting close. We'll have to ride hard or we'll be seen.
Where we go?
To the wagon train. Come on, Phil.
Come up, scout.
As the masked man and his friend neared Sweetwater Springs, Cap Keller held another conference with a courier from the outlaws' camp. Pedro was saying,
Senor El Capitan, the pass is blocked.
Good. Go back and tell the gang to be in the pass at daybreak. I'll hurry the wagons along.
Perhaps the masked one has gone for help to fight us, no?
He may have gone, but there's no place where he can find help within a day's ride, so forget him.
Look there, senor.
Get your hands up, both of you.
You, Clay Rogers.
Up, I said.
We're reaching, don't shoot.
Oh, por Dios, no, no.
Oh, this is how you pray, is it, Keller? I never believed that you left the corral last night for any religious purpose, so I followed you tonight.
Well, listen, Clay, I can explain.
I've heard enough of your lies. I know from what you and this Mexican said that the masked man was right about the bandits and that you're the leader.
Grab me, Pedro.
As Pedro lowered his arms as though to grapple, Clay turned his gun toward him. The diversion gave Keller his chance, and he leaped forward. Too late, the inexperienced Easterner saw his mistake. His revolver blazed. But the bullet plowed into the sand as the outlaw leader knocked down the gun with one arm and seized him around the body with the other.
Get that gun, Pedro.
I have it. Help! Murder!
Shoot him! Shoot him!
Now I have the gun against his head.
Drop that gun.
The masked one.
I'm getting out of here.
Drop that gun, I said.
Oh, I'm shot. My shoulder.
Look, Mr. Keller's on his horse.
Stop, Keller.
Try and stop me. Get up there.
Otto, look after the Mexican.
You fix him up.
I'll go after Keller. Come on, Phil.
Por Dios, Indio. I am dying.
You'll not die till you hang.
Clay. Clay, are you all right?
Yes, Ellen. The masked man and Indian saved me from being killed by Cap Keller and that Mexican.
Why in the world did they want to kill you?
I found out that Keller is the leader of the bandits the masked man warned us about. He planned to lead us into a trap.
Good heaven. And I thought once that I liked him.
He fooled all of us for a while. But what brought you out here?
I heard your shout and the shots. None of the men would leave the corral, so I came alone.
Alone? Then you must care a little about me.
Not a little, Clay. A lot.
Here, feller. Me got wound bandage.
Bring him along, Indian. We'll all go to the corral.
It was a half hour later when the Lone Ranger appeared inside the circle of wagons, where every man stood ready for battle. Noting that he had returned alone, Clay asked,
Where did Keller go, mister?
He headed straight for the Red Kettle Basin. I took a shortcut through a dry wash. When I rode out on level ground again, I found a war party of Apaches between us. I could do nothing else than return.
And the killers escaped.
I doubt it. Listen.
From far out across the flats came the sound of gunfire, mingled with the unmistakable war whoops of Indians.
That sounds as though Indians are making an attack.
Yes, they are. They'll be occupied with that fight for a while. So you'd better start the wagon train back to the main trail.
Men, I'm taking Keller's place. Hitch up and head east.
The next morning, when the wagon train had put many miles behind it, a halt was called. While the oxen rested, a detachment of United States cavalry spurred out of the flats from the west and drew rein behind the wagons, where the Lone Ranger, Tonto, Clay, and others did duty as a rear guard. The young captain in command of the troopers studied the masked man intently for a moment, then smiled.
Mister, I'm not going to ask who you are or why you wear a mask. I think I know.
Perhaps you do, Captain.
But there's one thing I don't know. That's why the Apaches attacked a gang of outlaws instead of these wagons.
I'll explain what happened, but if you don't mind, I'd like to hear first how the fight went.
It couldn't have had a better outcome. The Indians wiped out the bandits, but lost so heavily in the battle that they fled back to the reservation with their dead and wounded. They're not likely to make any more trouble for a while.
Did you find among the dead outlaws the body of a man dressed in a buckskin jacket and hand-tool boots?
I did, sir. I identified him as the leader, a notorious criminal known by such aliases as Cap Keller and El Capitan.
Are you certain of that?
I'm positive. I learned much about him on the border where my detachment was on duty until recently. Now, mister, let's hear your story.
The Lone Ranger quickly related how he and Tonto had found the signal arrow. Then the officer interrupted him with a question.
Did I understand you to say that the arrow pointed to the place where the wagon train had stopped for the night?
That's right.
What did you do?
First, we removed from the arrow shaft the rag, which indicated loot. Then we reduced the number of hairs to about 30, which approximated the number of the outlaws.
I'm beginning to understand. Please go on.
After that, we pointed the arrow away from the wagon train and straight toward the Red Kettle Basin where the outlaws waited.
Now I get it. When Cochise and his warriors came along following the scout, they knew nothing about the wagon train. They interpreted the chain signal to mean that the scout had located a party of about 30 white men.
Yes, Captain. As the arrow pointed, so they rode. When they found the bandits in Red Kettle Basin, they attacked.
Mister, let me thank you for saving the wagon train.
And I want to thank you on behalf of the Army.
Well, my friend and I deserve no thanks. We're grateful for an opportunity to serve the people of the West.
Captain, we have the one surviving bandit tied up in a wagon. He's called Pedro. Do you want him?
Want him. Next to Keller, he was the most dangerous man in the gang. We'll take charge of him.
Otto, our mission here has been completed. Adios, Miss Ellen.
Adios.
Adios, Clay.
Goodbye,
Adios,
mister.
Captain.
Adios.
Come on, Silver!
Captain, where do you suppose the masked man will go now?
Who knows? I believe that the arrow of destiny points the way for the Lone Ranger.
This is a feature of the Lone Ranger Incorporated, created by George W. Trendle, produced by Trendle Campbell Enterprises, directed by Charles D. Livingston, and edited by Fran Stryker. The part of the Lone Ranger is played by Brace Beamer.